This Sunday, November 24th at 3 p.m. at the Lutheran Church of the Cross, the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble will be holding a concert called Holidays and Holy Days. Formed in the fall of 1985 by band directors and other professional musicians, the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble is dedicated to bringing wind band music of the highest quality to Winnipeg audiences. The ensemble is the premier wind band in the province. On Sunday's program, there will be works by Strauss, Godfrey Ridout, Andrew Balfour, and more, with some of the compositions on the program being arranged for wind ensemble. Frequently, as part of the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble's mandate to both educate and entertain, the ensemble welcomes student ensembles to the stage to perform. This year, they will be welcoming the Oak Park Saxophone Quartet to the stage to perform a couple of selections. Holidays and Holy Days with the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble is going to be a fantastic concert. And joining me here in the Classic 107 studio to talk about Sunday's concert, I am joined by their artistic director and conductor, Virginia Helmer. Hey, Ginny, great to have you here.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
In studio, no less. Mm-hmm. So firstly, I found out a couple of days ago, some big news. You retired.
You could say that.
How does it feel?
It's good to have choices. So now I'm kind of making my own choices about all the work I do, but I'm still working pretty hard.
Yeah. It's sort of one of these things. I mean, in the band community, when you retire, there is no retirement. I mean, there's professional development workshops that you're teaching. There's clinician work. There's all that kind of thing. From years of experience teaching band, is that what you plan to get into now that you are retired?
Well, yeah, I still teach. I still conduct 2 bands, and I'm teaching a couple of university courses this year. And at some point, I'd really like to do the traditional, like, travel and that kind of thing. But no one's ready to travel with me yet, so I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, just keep them busy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to turn to the concert. It's called Holidays and Holy Days. Can you talk about what you had in mind when you were programming the music for the concert?
Well, we performed on the Senior Honor Band concert on November the 2nd. So it seemed obvious to me that Allersalen would be a good choice because that's All Souls Day. And that got me thinking about what else I could do or we could do to sort of fill out that program. And you know, there are a lot of holidays associated with this time of year in a lot of different cultures. And so that's sort of how I got started.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the rehearsal schedule of the ensemble? Like, when did rehearsals start for this concert?
We always have 5 rehearsals and a dress rehearsal concert. So this one's been a little bit spread out. We didn't have a rehearsal on November 11th, and we didn't have a rehearsal on Thanksgiving. So we started the week before Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was October the 5th.
Mm-hmm. When I saw the program, one of the things that struck me is there's some really interesting arrangements of music for wind ensemble in the program, including an arrangement done by the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble's bass clarinet player, David Byrne. Mm-hmm. He's also on faculty at the University of Manitoba. He's arranged the Canadian composer Godfrey Ridout's perennial favorite, Fall Fair. Did David approach you about having this piece perform, and how does it work for wind ensemble?
I've always wanted to do Fall Fair with the band. I remember it from when I was a kid. It used to get played on CBC all the time, if I can mention CBC. And I just love it. It's an exuberant piece. And there is an existing arrangement that's been played for many years for winds. And we started out with that version, actually. And then David approached me and said, you know, years ago I played this and I wanted to do my own arrangement that's more faithful to the original orchestral version. It's a little bit longer and you know, what do you think? And I looked at it and it was a no-brainer. It's a great arrangement. So we're doing this new arrangement now. Yeah,
and Ridout's Fall Fair, I mean, there's some pretty great wind writing in it already, but how does like some of the sumptuous string writing transfer over?
Well, that works really well, actually, with the woodwind choirs and the brass choirs, I think. Yeah,
it's going to be fantastic. The other interesting arrangement of the program is Strauss's, help me out here with the pronunciation, Allersalen. Is that it?
Allersalen.
Yeah. All Souls Day. I know this song. It's originally written for soprano and piano. It's a beautiful song. How does it transfer over to wind ensemble? I'm picturing a lot of woodwinds playing the piano part.
Yeah, I have to admit that I only know it as a piece for winds. I mean, I first knew it as a piece for winds, so I don't have that. I'm aware that it's a song. but I'm not coming at it from that direction. It works very well as a wind piece because it's very dynamic, and it's the opening is French horn, and it's beautiful and haunting. There's a chimes part. It's just really filled out, I think, from the original song. So yeah, it works very well.
Who did the arrangement?
Ooh, you're putting me on the spot now. Alberto Davis, I think.
I was on the Wind Repertory website, and that piece was, I believe, edited by Frederick Fennell, the Oliver Davis arrangement. There's another piece with a Frederick Fennell connection. First of all, for our listeners, can you tell us who Frederick Fennell was?
Well, he kind of pioneered the idea of a wind ensemble in the United States. So he taught at the Eastman School, and he spent the last part of his career as the artistic director of the Tokyo Kosai Wind Ensemble. So he spent a lot of time in Japan in the last 20 years of his life, and really developed wind band music there. Tokyo Kosai Wind Ensemble is a very well-known wind ensemble. Yeah,
he was a legend in the field. My understanding is he commissioned Ron Nelson's Morning Alleluias for the winter solstice. Can you talk about that piece? What's it about, and what's it like?
Well, it's interesting. It's kind of two pieces, and the program notes don't give you that when you first look at it. So Fennell has written in the introduction to the piece that it was inspired because he told Ron Nelson this story about waking up in a hotel room in Japan and, experiencing this beautiful morning sunlight glistening, and it made him think about the people of Hiroshima and how resilient they are, and how much they had been able to recover from the bombing. So that's kind of the first half of the piece that's inspired by that. But what isn't as well known is that Ron Nelson was really interested in the winter solstice. I think probably because he was born on December 14th. So he had that. He was kind of a solstice baby. And he wrote a piece of music for the winter solstice every year. Some of them were never published. But he used a choir piece that he had written that was based on Tennyson's Ring Out Wild Bells. And he rearranged it for wind ensemble. And that's what the second half of Morning Alleluias is. It's an arrangement of Ring Out Wild Bells.
Man, sounds great. Aside from David Bird's transcription of the Godfrey Ridout Fall Fair piece, there's also another great Winnipeg connection. You're performing Winnipegger Andrew Balfour's piece, Vision Chant. What can you tell us about this piece?
It's arranged in collaboration with Andrew by Mark Hopkins, who's in Acadia, or in Halifax at Acadia University. And I think it was originally, I know it was originally written by Andrew for Camerata Nova, which is now Dead of Winter. So it's also a choir piece.
Right.
It's evocative of the story of the Wendigo in Indigenous legend. So the Wendigo is a creature that is cannibalistic. And it eats and eats and eats, and it's never satisfied. It gets bigger, but it's scrawny and scary. And its place, I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but from what I've done in my research, I would say it's partially intended to promote the Indigenous perspective of not taking more than you should, and being careful with resources and taking care of things and not committing these sins against humanity like cannibalism. And so the piece itself starts out with sort of cold wind noises that we're going to start hearing a lot more in the next month. And then there's what sounds to me like a chase scene. It's that feeling of you can't make yourself run fast enough to get away. So it's that tense feeling, and then it comes back to the wind, and the story that Andrew tells in that connection is that they've called to the ancestors to help them. The sun comes up, everything is fine again. So it's kind of like a nightmare.
That sounds really interesting. As I said in the preamble, the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble regularly has student ensembles perform pieces on the concert. Why is this so important for you, but also for the members of the ensemble?
Well, a lot of us are teachers or were teachers. And one of the reasons the ensemble was formed, I think, was to be able to provide exemplars of wind band playing. So we want to get kids out to hear us, and we also want to promote their performance goals. So we, in the last 10 years, I think, have started inviting student ensembles to play with us. We didn't, of course, when we were on hiatus during the pandemic, but and then we hadn't done chamber ensembles, but because we had a limited space at the church that we're at, we decided to include a chamber ensemble last year, and we liked it. So even though we have a little bit more space this year, we're having another chamber ensemble this year.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. What can you tell us about the Oak Park Saxophone Quartet? How did that collaboration come about, and how did you find out about them?
Well, it's not my department to find that ensemble, but we do discuss different groups and different high school programs and how we can get them involved. We've never had Oak Park or an involvement from Oak Park, and one of the members of the ensemble is one of the teachers at Oak Park, so that was a natural connection there.
Perfect. The concert on Sunday sounds so fantastic, and we've only just scratched the surface for our listeners. What are you and the ensemble looking forward to most about Sunday's performance?
That's an interesting question. Just feeling good about how we play and being able to share our music with everybody who's at the concert. So we hope to see lots of people.
Yeah, you sure will. Jenny, this has been so great having you here in studio. The concert on Sunday is going to be amazing, I'm sure. Thanks for taking the time to stop by our Classic 107 studios and talk to me today. This has been fantastic.
You're welcome. Thanks for the interview.
For our Classic 107 listeners, Holidays and Holy Days with the Winnipeg Wind Ensemble takes place this Sunday, November 24th at 3 p.m. at the Lutheran Church of the Cross, which is at 560 Arlington Street. For more details, visit winnipegwindensemble.ca or go to classic107.com. I have embedded a direct link to the concert page in the article that is now up there. Jenny, thanks again.
Thanks, Chris.